Welcome to FUNC YOU UP, the podcast that gives you the best of functional medicine, nutrition, and wellness in 8 minutes or less.
Welcome, everyone, to the third episode of the FUNC YOU UP podcast.
Hello, I'm Samantha Wineke, functional medicine health coach.
And I'm Michelle Miller, clinical nutritionist.
And today's topic is functional lab ranges. So today we're focusing on your blood work and your blood work results and what the difference is between conventional and functional lab ranges. So baseline understanding here is that in conventional medicine, there are lab ranges for each blood marker, and they are going to tell you whether or not you have a disease. So that result will tell you, do you have a diagnosis? In functional medicine, our ranges are a lot smaller. So what that means is we're looking to make sure that you feel optimal, not just that you have an absence of a disease. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So just as Samantha was saying, when you get your blood work report back from your doctor, let's say you went in for your annual physical, you get this sheet back. A lot of times you may just hear everything looks good. But now listening to this podcast, you'll be able to look a little bit more in depth at those results. So every marker that you're having tested will have a range, usually to the far right side, of what that lab deems normal and healthy. Basically, if you're falling within that range, you shouldn't have a particular disease. And it is important to make sure you don't fall outside that range because there are definitely higher correlations with disease when you get outside that. But more of our concern, especially when we're talking about functional ranges, is let's say we're talking about TSH. That's your thyroid stimulating hormone. This is the most common thyroid marker that is tested. And a lab range could vary from one lab to another, which is one thing you should be aware of. But the second thing is that if you're at the high end of that range, let's say you're at 5.4, and the lab says that anything that's higher than 5.5 is considered too high. Well, with thyroid stimulating hormone, if your thyroid level, that TSH, is too high, that could actually mean you have hypothyroidism. That could actually mean your thyroid is running too slowly. So our concern is if you're just hanging out at that high end of normal, you could still have something kind of brewing. I actually love this idea that Samantha uses with a lot of her health coaching clients, is that you think about a pot of boiling water on the stove, and we want to make sure that we're catching that water as it's boiling before it overflows, before it gets out of that lab range.
Totally. That's preventative medicine, right?
For sure.
We're not just waiting until you have the disease to treat you. We want to make sure you don't get that disease. So I think that's important too, because I know so many times we look through our blood work, or at least I do, and I don't see anything red. So you might, your first thought is nothing's wrong with me. I'm in perfect health. But I know I've brought my blood work over to you, and then you mark up all over it and you tell me things that I need to change in my diet or my supplement habits. So it's so important for people to kind of have that information to empower them to know that, maybe they should look a little deeper into their blood work or ask their practitioner questions, right?
Definitely. I think everyone has to be an advocate for their own health. You are responsible for knowing your test results. Yes, I understand if you have a quick annual visit, it's a checkup and everything does look like it's falling within the lab range. You may hear back from your doctor, all looks good, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't take a look at that. And, as a functional medicine practitioner, we are trained in knowing what those lab ranges are. As a layperson, though, you can just look at your blood work and look at the range. And let's say if there's a range from 0 to 100 and you're falling at 50, that's a pretty good sign that you're falling in the middle of that range. If you're at 99 and anything above 100 is considered concerning, you might want to make a note about that. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend Dr. Google at that point, but maybe follow up with your doctor and just inquire. It never hurts to ask questions. Again, this is your health we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's such a great point.
So from here, we would say definitely pay attention to your blood work. We always recommend working with a functional medicine practitioner because functional medicine practitioners are trained in what those specific optimal or functional lab ranges are. Because again, we want to really make sure we're getting to the root of the problem and we're identifying issues before like Sam would say, that pot of water is boiling over. We want to catch it as the heat is starting to gather and those bubbles are starting. So remember, you're an advocate for your own health. Keep track of those labs. Work with a functional medicine practitioner if you have a sense that something may be off. And also at the end of the day, blood work is just a snapshot of one element of your health. If your symptoms are really telling you something's off, you have to follow your intuition, follow your gut, and keep asking more questions, keep pushing for more testing, because we've seen so many times that maybe it's just the wrong day of blood work that was captured, or maybe it's just not the right markers that were captured. And there could be other issues brewing underneath the surface that we just haven't looked into yet.
Right. And I think that's another thing to think about too. And we can talk about this in a later conversation if we want. But there are certain tests also that we run in functional medicine that are a little bit more extensive. So we can kind of see each part of, let's talk about the thyroid again, right? We run 4 or 5 different markers for the thyroid, and sometimes your doctor will only run one. So there are also more tests we can run to get to the deeper root cause of your symptoms that you're experiencing.
So true. Yeah. We'll have patients come in who will have 1 or 2 thyroid markers done. When we do more extensive testing in our office, we'll look at anywhere from 4 to 8, depending on what that patient's health history has been as well. And that's the fun part of our job. We love being the detective and putting all the pieces together. But again, I mean, your job as the individual, as the patient caring for your health is just to make sure that you're being aware of what is being tested, you're being aware of where your labs fall, and you're making sure that you feel good. Really, again, listen to your intuition.
I love that. It's so true. So if you guys have any other questions come up, any of your questions about lifestyle or functional medicine, things like that, come reach out to us at funkyouup@physiologicnyc.com or ask us a question on Instagram at physiologicnyc, and we'll be sure to have that as the next topic as our podcast. We love hearing from you, and we love all of the support that we've received from you as an audience.
Yeah, you guys are amazing. You've really made this so much fun to do. So thank you for all your input and your feedback, and keep sharing and subscribing.
You've been listening to Funk You Up. Be sure to like, review, and subscribe for more daily tips on living well.